Chapter 25 of Keeper of the Lost Cities, Book 5. Dex's house was even more beautiful on the inside. Everything looked blue and gray and shimmery, with whirls of white like waves in the ocean. Kessler was right, though. The crystal yeti in the entry was definitely needed to be destroyed. Its jaggedly carved fur looked like some sort of demented, oversized porcupine, and once again the triplets seemed to have spared its life. Instead, they shattered what must have been a vase filled with glass marbles. The white stone floor was covered in clear glass orbs. "Walk very carefully," Julian warned. Sophie made about 10 steps before her foot rolled on a marble and sent her flying backward like a cartoon character, slipping on a banana peel. She would have been in for some killer bruises if Fitz hadn't caught her. "Maybe I should carry you," he said when she slipped again on her next step. His teasing smile made it extra hilarious when he fell in a second later, landing on his butt with a loud oof. Bianna laughed so hard she nearly fell over too, but Dex was able to catch her by her shoulders. "Perhaps I should carry all of you," Lovis offered, making it look easy as she helped them back on their feet. "The trick is to slide on your steps, so nothing gets underneath you." She was right, though they all looked like the world's most uncoordinated ice skaters. "You okay?" Sophie asked when she noticed Fitz rubbing his tailbone. "He's fine," Bianna answered for him. "I knock him down way harder than that in tackle bamble all the time. And by the way, he told me about the favor he owes you. If you need ideas of how to torture him, I have lots of suggestions." "See, Dex?" Fitz asked. "You're not the only one with annoying siblings." "Trade you," Dex offered. "Only if you take Alvar as part of the deal." His name killed everyone's smiles, and Sophie checking her inverter again. "Do you think it's bad sign that we haven't heard anything?" she whispered. "We've barely been gone an hour," Bianna reminded her. "Ugh, is it that really all?" Sophie asked. "The day is going to take forever." "I know," Bianna twisted in the panic switch on her finger. "I think we need to stay busy so we don't go crazy." They'd made it to the main room then, where the plush gray carpet was bliss-fairy marble-free, and the clear ceiling let the warm rays of sunlight. 5 curved staircases broke up the space, each leading into one of the towers, and all the gray-blue furniture had been arranged around the giant glass cloche in the center. 5 flames tipped with blue flickered under the dome, shimmering with each spark and crackle. Sophie had seen many types of fire since she'd moved to the Lost Cities, but she'd never seen any quite so beautiful. "You okay?" Fitz asked her. "I know you don't like to be around flames." "I don't," Sophie agreed, "but for some reason, these don't bother me." "Probably because they're hologram." Julian snapped her fingers, and the glowing flames morphed into a black orb of the night sky filling with twinkly stars. "This is one of Dex's inventions." "That's amazing," Bianna said, snapping again and creating a spear of sunset. "You seriously made this?" Dex shrugged. "It wasn't hard. All I did was tweak a fire emulator." Bianna shook her head. "You don't give yourself enough credit. Sophie's just as bad with compliments," Fitz said. "Look at how red they're both turning right now." They're really adorable, aren't they?" Bianna asked. Sophie sighed. "Who invented the backers?" "That one's on you," Dex said. "But at least we have someone to prank now, as soon as they fall asleep." "Sleep?" Bianna interrupted. "Only lame people sleep during slumber parties. Besides, we all know Sophie's going to keep us sending telepathic messages to Keith. Or wait, you don't think he'll go to Havenfield, do you?" "I don't know if they'll give him a choice," Sophie mumbled. "But Keith would never hurt our families." "What happens if they tell him he has to?" Fitz asked. "We hope he has to plan to get out of it," Sophie said. "Like how he had a plan to save me with that bead." "And if he doesn't?" Fitz pressed. Sophie didn't have an answer. "Come on," Julian said, breaking the suffocating silence. "The solarium is this way." She led them toward the back of the house into a giant glass bubble of a room that made it feel like they were standing in a life-size fishbowl. A thin row of plants lined with round space, and Sophie noticed that their emerald green leaves shimmered into a thin layer of hoarfrost. The rest of the room was mostly empty, just a few properties scattered around and a pile of 4 rolled-up sleeping bags. The real focus was the view. Wide stretch of garden filled with flowering vines, gleaming silver fountains, and the most lifelike ice sculptures Sophie had ever seen. A mix of spring and winter only a froster could have had at the same time. The woolly mammoth had been carved to scale, and somehow this icy fur looked soft and silky. The saber-toothed tiger's eyes gave Sophie chills. "They're amazing," Brianna whispered. Julian's cheeks reddened into the praise. "Thank you. Our lives are too chaotic for pets, so this is my compromise with the triplets. They get to decide which creatures are carved every week. And speaking of pets, is your imp going to need a bathroom spot? We can set some sort of box so you don't want him out in the cold. Or we could give him a fluffier coat." Brianna jumped in. "Maybe change his color, too. Do you have any auxiliaries, Dex? I'm thinking purple this time, or maybe green." "I'll check my room," he told her. Brianna clapped. "Yay! First makeover of the night." "You mean the only makeover," Fitz corrected. "Aw, come on, you and Keith let me do it once before," Brianna whined. "Seriously?" Sophie asked. "Now that's a story I have to hear." Dex snorted. "Me too." "Aren't we supposed to be searching for Ava's records?" Fitz asked. Brianna shrugged off her satchel. "I can't imagine what's going to take all night." "It might," Dex warned. "There's a lot of scrolls I need to help carrying them down." Fitz volunteered, and Brianna pouted as the boys headed for the stairs. Julian handed Brianna her other bag and gave Sophie Iggy's cage. "For the record, I hope you guys have a little fun tonight. I know you're worried about your parents, and I know how hard we all working to solve everything, but I speak for all of us when I say we want you to enjoy being normal teenagers." "But we aren't normal teenagers," Sophie reminded her. "Or, I'm not, at least." Jubilee took her hands. "Yes, you are. Even if everything you've been through, even with everything you've had, you're still a 14-year-old girl who deserves to relax and have fun with her friends." "So what are you saying?" Brianna asked. "Is I have your permission to give Dex a makeover?" Julian laughed. "I'll leave that up to Dex." She winked and left them alone, and then got to work setting up for the sleeping bags, which turned out to be a much trickier job than it should have been. In all of the straight row concept felt super awkward, but the round room made it impossible to get separate corners. Eventually, they settled on an X shape, the way their beds would be close enough to talk to each other, but they still have so much space as possible. "Keith is going to pout so hard when he finds out he missed on this," Brianna said, claiming the sleeping bag closest to the room's entrance. "We could have all scooted over and put his sleeping bag right here." Sophie tried not to notice that the arrangement would have looked like a star. "You know what I hate?" she said, moving her backpack to his sleeping bag on the left of Brianna's. "If the Neverseen really do attack Havenfield today, and everyone stays safe, we'll probably know that Keith warned us. We tried to make it look like all the security stuff they had set up in order to protect me, but I'm not there." "Right, but it's not like you never leave the house," Brianna reminded her, "and Keith's a quick thinker." "Also a good liar," Sophie mumbled. "But I don't mean much to the Neverseen. If they got suspicious, Keith would have to do something to prove himself again. And if it would take an even bigger than what he already did at Foxfire." "You know what I hate?" Brianna asked, pulling the tab on the side of her sleeping bag and making it plump up like a pillow. Sophie copied her. When she sat down, it felt like sinking into a giant stretched-out marshmallow. "I hate wondering how many times I should have figured out what my brother was doing," Brianna whispered. "That's why Adeline told me hindsight is a dangerous game," Sophie reminded her. "I know, but it feels so obvious. Like, I remember after my dad's mind broke, Alfred decided to stay the night at Everglen. Because my mom had a super rough day and I couldn't sleep, so I got to wander the halls. I heard him in my dad's office talking to someone in his imparter, but I figured he was trying to help finish one of my dad's projects. Do you remember anything he said?" "Bits and pieces. I should have paid more attention. I heard him say something about changing the timeline, and he asked about his test subjects. I also remember him using the word contortion a couple times, but I could not know what any of that means. Sophie pulled Ella from her backpack and leaned her cheek on the elephant's pillow belly. You know what I miss? Back when I first moved to the Lost Cities, and back when we were running my life in the shadows. I know I was on the right track because I never heard a word, and I would trigger new memories. Now it seems like everything we learn stuff that even the Black Swan don't know. You think that means we're preparing for the wrong thing? Brianna asked. Ugh, I do now. Just when Sophie thought she'd reached maximum worrying capacity, what if the role she'd been designed to play isn't even the right one? Could Project Moonlark be a fail?